Up to 20% of individuals over the age of 60 suffer from a condition called atrophic gastritis. It is a silent inflammation that systematically destroys the stomach's ability to produce acid, effectively locking away the most critical nutrient for energy and nerve function, vitamin B12. This happens even in those who eat the most pristine, nutrient-dense diets. This is not a failure of your diet. It is a biological breakdown in absorption, and there is a clear, three-part strategy to systematically rebuild this internal machinery, ensuring every nutrient you consume is a nutrient your body can actually use. The frustration is palpable. The organic spinach, the wild-caught salmon, the grass-fed beef, the daily handful of almonds. Every choice is deliberate, guided by decades of health wisdom. Yet, the returns diminish. The energy that should follow a healthy meal is replaced by a subtle lethargy. The joints still ache. The mental clarity feels just out of reach. This is the great paradox for millions of health-conscious adults over 55. They are doing everything right on paper, but their bodies are not reflecting the effort. They follow the experts. They buy the best ingredients. They avoid the processed sugars and industrial seed oils. They are disciplined. They are committed, but they are not getting the results they deserve. The problem is not the food. The problem is the fire. The powerful digestive fire that effortlessly broke down any meal at age 25 has, for many, dwindled to a pilot light. The issue is not what goes into the system, but what the system is no longer capable of doing with the raw materials provided. The crisis isn't happening on the plate. It is happening in the first 60 centimeters of the upper gastrointestinal tract, in the stomach and the small intestine. This is where the complex architecture of food is meant to be deconstructed into the fundamental building blocks of life. This is the absorption crisis. It is the invisible barrier standing between a healthy diet and true cellular health. It is the reason why a $20 steak can provide less usable protein than a $5 egg once did. This is a biological reality. It is not a personal failure, and it is correctable. The truth is, your stomach may have lost a critical ability it had at age 25, and later, we will reveal the simple, over-the-counter kitchen staple that can begin to reverse this decline in as little as 7 days. To understand the solution, one must first respect the problem. The process begins in the stomach, an organ designed to be a highly acidic environment. The primary agent of this environment is hydrochloric acid, or HCl. Its role is not merely to digest food in a general sense. It has two critically specific functions. First, it unravels the complex, tightly wound structures of protein molecules, exposing them so that digestive enzymes can get to work. Imagine a tightly knotted ball of yarn. HCl is what unknots it, allowing the scissors of enzymes to cut the strands. Second, hydrochloric acid ionizes minerals. It chemically changes essential minerals like calcium, magnesium, and iron, transforming them from their food-based state into a form the intestines can actually absorb. Without sufficient HCl, these minerals pass through the digestive tract largely untouched. They are present, but they are inaccessible. This is not a rare condition. Studies published in journals of gastroenterology show that the production of hydrochloric acid can decrease by as much as 40% from age 30 to age 60. By age 65, a state of low stomach acid, known as hypochlorhydria, becomes incredibly common. The consequences are systemic and often misdiagnosed as simple signs of aging. Insufficient protein breakdown leads to a lack of essential amino acids, which are required for muscle maintenance, neurotransmitter production, and tissue repair. The result is muscle weakness, a low mood, and slow recovery. The inability to absorb calcium and magnesium directly impacts bone density and can lead to muscle cramps and poor sleep. The B12 deficiency is perhaps the most insidious. B12 is bound to protein in food. Hydrochloric acid is the only key that can separate it, allowing it to be absorbed. Without that key, a person can eat a diet rich in B12 and still develop the classic symptoms of deficiency: profound fatigue, brain fog, and even permanent nerve damage. The body is being starved on a molecular level, despite a constant supply of high-quality food. It is a biological famine in the midst of plenty. But the acid is only one half of the digestive powerhouse. The second component originates in the pancreas. This organ produces a cocktail of potent digestive enzymes: protease to break down the now unwound proteins, amylase to deconstruct carbohydrates, and lipase to handle fats. As with stomach acid, the pancreas's ability to produce a robust supply of these enzymes can wane with age, a condition known as exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. When enzyme levels are low, food is only partially broken down. Large, undigested particles of fat, protein, and carbohydrates travel from the small intestine into the large intestine. This is not their intended destination. Their presence in the colon becomes food for the wrong kinds of bacteria, leading to fermentation. The direct, immediate result is the discomfort so many people over 60 accept as normal: bloating, gas, indigestion, and a feeling of heaviness after meals. These are not just minor discomforts. They are warning signals. They are the sound of an inefficient engine. They are a clear sign that the nutrients on the fork are not making it into the bloodstream. Many believe a simple probiotic is the answer. They are mistaken. The real solution lies not in adding more bacteria, but in properly feeding the ones you already have. We'll explain the crucial difference and reveal the one type of food that acts as a supercharger for your digestive enzymes. The combination of low stomach acid and low enzyme output creates a devastatingly effective, vicious cycle. The initial failure to break down food leads to the downstream problems of fermentation and bacterial overgrowth in the small intestine, or SIBO. These bad bacteria produce toxins that can damage the delicate lining of the intestinal wall. This damage leads to a condition of increased intestinal permeability, colloquially known as leaky gut. When the gut lining is compromised, it can no longer act as a selective barrier. It not only fails to absorb good nutrients effectively, but it can allow undigested food particles and bacterial toxins to leak into the bloodstream. The immune system, recognizing these particles as foreign invaders, mounts an attack. This process creates a state of chronic, low-grade inflammation throughout the entire body. This is the deeper, more sinister consequence of the absorption crisis. It is a cascade of dysfunction that begins silently in the stomach. It manifests not as a sudden illness, but as a gradual erosion of vitality, the slow drain of energy, the creeping stiffness in the joints, the frustrating moments of mental fog, the unexplained skin issues. This is not aging. This is biology starved of its fuel. It is a preventable state of decline. Reversing it requires a strategic intervention that addresses the root cause, not just the symptoms. It requires re-establishing the fundamental conditions for optimal digestion. The journey back to digestive power begins with a single, foundational step: reigniting the stomach's acidic fire. The goal is to awaken the body's own innate digestive intelligence. This process starts not in the stomach, but on the tongue. The cephalic phase of digestion is a neurological process that begins with the taste and smell of food. Specifically, the taste of bitterness is a powerful trigger for the entire digestive cascade. When bitter receptors on the tongue are activated, they send a signal via the vagus nerve directly to the stomach, instructing it to begin secreting hydrochloric acid and to the pancreas to prepare its enzymes. It is the body's natural get-ready signal. In modern diets, which favor sweet and salty flavors, this bitter signal is often missing. The simplest way to reintroduce this signal is with a time-tested tool: apple cider vinegar. Raw, unfiltered apple cider vinegar, which contains the mother, is rich in acetic acid. Consuming a small, diluted amount before a meal provides a gentle, acidic primer and a bitter taste that stimulates the cephalic phase response. The protocol is specific: 1 teaspoon of raw apple cider vinegar in 4 ounces of water. Consume 10 to 15 minutes before a protein-rich meal. This is not a cure. It is a signal. It is a way to gently remind the stomach of its primary function. This simple act can begin to improve protein and mineral absorption, reducing post-meal bloating and discomfort for many. It is the essential first maneuver in the strategy to reclaim digestive control. But stimulating acid production is only the first part of the equation. For those with significant, age-related digestive decline, stimulation alone may not be enough. A more direct intervention is required. This next strategy involves a supplement so misunderstood, it is often dismissed by the uninformed. Yet, when used correctly, it can single-handedly reverse decades of nutrient blockade. The key is understanding the precise protocol, because doing it wrong can make things worse. The second step is not about stimulation. It is about replacement. Direct, targeted replacement of the very substance your stomach is failing to produce: hydrochloric acid. The tool for this is called betaine hydrochloride, or betaine HCl. And this is where the wires in our brain begin to cross. This is the rehook. This is the moment where everything you've been taught about digestion gets turned on its head. For decades, we have been conditioned by a multi-billion-dollar industry to believe that heartburn, indigestion, and acid reflux are problems of too much stomach acid. So why on earth would we add more acid to the fire? The answer is one of the most misunderstood concepts in all of human physiology. And getting this wrong is the reason millions remain trapped in a cycle of digestive distress. What if I told you that for the vast majority of people over 50, acid reflux is not a symptom of excess acid, but a desperate cry from a stomach that has too little? Think of the valve between your esophagus and your stomach, the lower esophageal sphincter, or LES, as a security guard at a high-security door. That guard has one job: keep the stomach's contents in the stomach. What's the password to make that door slam shut and stay shut? It's not a number. It's a pH level, an intensely acidic environment. When your stomach produces a strong, healthy supply of hydrochloric acid, the pH drops to between 1.5 and 2.5. This extreme acidity is the signal that tells the LES to contract with maximum force. It seals the exit. Nothing gets back up. But what happens when acid levels are weak? When the pH is 4 or 5, the security guard doesn't get the right password. The door doesn't lock properly. The valve remains loose, lax. Now, as your stomach churns to try and break down that meal, this weak, insufficient acid, which is still far more acidic than the delicate lining of your esophagus can handle, splashes upwards. That is the burn. That is the reflux. It was never a problem of overproduction. It was a failure of containment, caused by underproduction. Antacids offer temporary relief by neutralizing the acid, but in doing so, they weaken the signal even further. They guarantee the valve will stay open. They perpetuate the cycle, making the root cause, low stomach acid, even worse over the long term. The real solution is not to douse the fire. It is to rebuild it so it burns hot and stays where it belongs. This is done by strategically replacing the missing acid at mealtimes. The protocol for using betaine HCl requires careful, personal calibration. It is not a one-size-fits-all approach. It begins with a single 650 mg capsule of betaine HCl with pepsin, taken in the middle of a protein-rich meal. Not before, not after, but in the middle, mixed with the food. You pay attention. How does your stomach feel? For many, nothing will be different. At the next protein-rich meal, you would try 2 capsules. Then, at the next, 3. You continue this gradual increase, meal by meal, day by day. You are searching for a signal. The signal is a mild sensation of warmth in the stomach. Not a burn, not pain, just a gentle, noticeable warmth. This sensation tells you that you have reached, and just barely exceeded, your stomach's current need for acid. You have found your ceiling. Once you find that dose, your therapeutic dose is 1 capsule less. So if you felt the warmth at 4 capsules, your dose is 3. You stay with this dose for all your protein-containing meals. It can be a game changer. It is direct support for your body's most fundamental process, turning food into you. But the story doesn't end there, because restoring your stomach's acidity sets off a chain reaction, a beautiful, biological cascade. Remember the pancreas? It's waiting for its cue. The trigger for the pancreas to release its flood of digestive enzymes is the arrival of that highly acidic chyme from the stomach into the small intestine. It's another pH-driven signal. When the chyme is intensely acidic, the signal to the pancreas is loud and clear. Heavy load coming through. Deploy all enzymes now. But if the stomach acid is weak, the chyme entering the small intestine is not acidic enough. The signal is a whisper, not a shout. The pancreas, receiving this feeble message, responds with a lazy, inadequate trickle of enzymes. This is how low stomach acid directly causes pancreatic insufficiency. The two are inextricably linked. By fixing the first problem, you are often fixing the second. You see, this isn't about just one organ. It's about a sequence, a system of handoffs. The stomach's acidic fire is the first and most critical domino. When it falls correctly, everything else is set in motion. Proper protein breakdown, optimal mineral absorption, the precise signaling for enzyme release. But even with perfect acid and enzyme levels, the entire system can still fail. There's a missing piece of the puzzle, a third, silent partner in digestion, a vast, living ecosystem inside you that can either be your greatest ally in nutrient absorption or your most insidious enemy. And feeding it the wrong thing, even the healthy things you've been told to eat, can sabotage this entire delicate process. We're talking about your gut microbiome, the trillions of bacteria, fungi, and other microbes living in your large intestine. This is not just a passenger. It is an active, metabolic organ, a vast internal pharmacy, and the final gatekeeper of your nutrition. These microbes are supposed to be your partners. They take the dietary fiber your enzymes can't break down and transform it into life-giving compounds like butyrate, which fuels the cells of your gut wall, and essential vitamins like K2 and B12. They are the ultimate recyclers and producers. But this harmonious partnership depends entirely on what you send down to them. When undigested food, large protein and carbohydrate fragments that should have been dismantled by acid and enzymes further upstream, arrives in the large intestine, it becomes food for the wrong team. It feeds pathogenic bacteria and yeasts, allowing them to overgrow, a condition known as dysbiosis. This is where so-called healthy foods can betray you. That healthy salad or bean burrito, without the proper acid and enzymes to break it down, becomes a feast for gas-producing microbes. The result? Crippling gas, bloating, and inflammation. You're left confused, thinking you have an intolerance to a specific food, when the real problem lies 10 feet further up your digestive tract. The fire wasn't hot enough at the start of the assembly line. This is the full story of digestion. It is a top-down, sequential masterpiece. Strong stomach acid triggers the release of enzymes. Strong enzymes ensure complete digestion, and complete digestion delivers the right materials to your microbiome, cultivating a healthy inner garden. Each step is a prerequisite for the next. You cannot fix the microbiome without first fixing the stomach. True health is not about chasing symptoms. It's not about an antacid for the burn, a laxative for the constipation, or a special diet to manage the bloat. It's about understanding the system. It's about restoring the fundamental biological processes that turn food into life, from the very first spark to the final microbial synthesis. It's about rebuilding the system from the top down. If you are ready to stop playing whack-a-mole with your health and start understanding the elegant, interconnected system that you are, then our journey together is just beginning. Subscribe to how_to_be_healthy and click the bell so you don't miss our next chapter. It's time to learn how your body was designed to thrive.